Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Welcome. It's Wednesday, June 1st. Holy cow, here we are. Glad to have all of you with us. June is on the chat box and she'll be joining me on screen here in just a few minutes. Megan has Kid Crud, which happens when you have third graders and fifth graders, and she got one of their summer colds, and she was going to try and do the webinar today, and we said, no, just sleep, and June and I will try to handle it. So you're stuck with me on screen most of the day today. Megan is fine. We're just trying to give her a day of rest, and she will be back on her regular schedule and handling coaching calls and all the other things that she does in the next day or so. But we are glad to have all of you with us today. Just so you know, we are 56 days until the July exam, which means that we are on the outside of what I have euphemistically called for many years the dreaded seventh week. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today, but essentially what it means is that there is a wall or a barrier that starts to happen to people at about this point. So over the next 7 days, when it just feels really icky. And I know June's going to talk a little bit about this when she talks about group coaching, but we know that there's just this bad feeling that starts to occur because the exam right now, it seems imminent, but it's not. And your skill set is certainly not ready. 56 days to go. You will be stunned, literally, at how much you will learn over the next 56 days. Unfortunately, today, it feels like you don't know anything, regardless of when you began, and it feels like the exam is tomorrow, which it isn't. So the combination of those two perceptive things creates this wall that then leads to really bad behavior. A lot of arguments with partners, spouses, children, baristas, you name it, bar review mentors. And so it could be a really tough week. So if you're starting to feel a little bit of that, you're just a little ahead of schedule. If you feel fine today, good. But I'm pretty sure that in the next 7 days, you are going to start to feel some higher levels of anxiety. So we're going to deal with some of those questions today. We're also going to look at how to do a mind map. So I hope we get to all of that. Before we do all of that, let me just remind you of a couple of things going on. First of all, as you heard last week, we announced the resumption of Bar Prep Bootcamp. It will be October 14th and 15th of 2022 here in Celebration, Florida, live 2 days with June, Megan, and myself. Now, the cost for boot camp is typically $3,000 per person. Right now, we've discounted that to $2,000. And what you need to do to reserve your spot is to pay a deposit. We are only going to take 15 students into the Bar Prep Bootcamp. That's it. We're going to keep this small and really make it a sterling experience for everybody that's there. In order to reserve your spot, you need to make at least a $250 deposit now. Your deposit is fully refundable, and the balance is due on September 10th of 2022. If you don't pay the balance, then you lose your spot. During this boot camp, we're going to deal with photo reading. We're going to deal with mind mapping. Megan is going to be doing very small group, up to 5 people max, breakout sessions on essay writing. June is going to be doing breakout sessions with no more than 5 people on mindset, probably sitting under a very lovely tree outside the clubhouse here in Celebration, Florida. And I'm going to be doing some application of photo reading to essay writing and performance tests and MBE. So we've got a lot planned. The cost for boot camp includes everything except your transportation and lodging. We're going to take care of all of your meals. We're doing a special dinner on Friday night at the Artisan Clubhouse here in Celebration. We'll have a special guest speaker, and I think you're going to really find it to be a terrific event. We did boot camps for many years, and they were incredibly successful, and I encourage you to check those out. Make sure you check it out. If you have any questions, let us know. We're really excited about that. Let's bring in June. And that you've been just jammed up with your group calls and a lot of people in those calls.
We are giving July 22 priority in group coaching because it's getting very busy. But again, always available via email. So if you hit a hard spot,
and by the way, you have a course called Calming the Chaos, which anyone can register for and do 4 sessions with you.
So yeah, if you're really stressed to the max, it will be 4 calls, 1-to-1, and we can dive a lot deeper than we can on group coaching and really find a way for you to sit, hopefully, your first exam without stress. It can be done. And I've done it with our students. So let's do it if you need that. And that's one thing, Jackson, we were talking about in group coaching last night, is where everybody thinks they should be right now. Because like you said, we're almost to the dreaded 7th week. And this is where we normally see the anxiety really pop in hard and people start second guessing themselves. Don't do it. Right now, at this moment, you're expecting yourself to be proficient in the bar exam, and you're not there yet. You're still in a learning phase. You won't be proficient for a few more weeks, and that's okay. So again, when you take those quizzes, do not get tied into that score. Don't. Figure out what you need to know better, figure out what you need to get correct. And then, like I told Jackson, like I said last night on the call, toss it up and throw it away. It doesn't exist, and keep going. If you go down the rabbit hole on that score, it will derail you. So don't do it.
Yeah. That's wisdom, folks. And it's well-earned wisdom over many years with many students. So I encourage you to jump on that. So get in the group coaching calls, get on our community group, ask questions there, and just participate. There are so many different features that we offer within this course. We've got Calming the Chaos. We've got Brianna's time management workshop. Megan does a personal writing workshop. There are a variety of things that you can do to supplement your studies and make them work better. What I want to do is also let you know that you can add these additional pieces and course upgrades. You will find them in your course materials. When we get over to the course itself, in the first sections of the course, you will find opportunities to add coaching, to add photo reading, whatever it might be. So I hope that's helpful for everybody there. What I want to do is pivot over to some student questions that we got this week. We had some good questions this week. By the way, there's no real bar exam news to tell you of note. All of the results are in, so I think we've got everybody caught up there. The first question came from a student who has decided to defer from February's bar to the July bar exam and said, I'm still planning on completing the course by the end of August. I'll then take the course one more time again before the February bar. The logic being that studying for the course twice is better than only once. I'll assume this is okay unless your research on learning finds this to be counterproductive. Yeah, actually, we do find it to be counterproductive. I know that it feels enticing to want to do things multiple times, but instead, I would like you to think about your studies as being more like a funnel, that you're working from the top to the bottom. And because of the repetition that's built into the course, doing it all over again multiple times, 2-3 times, is not productive at all. In fact, we find students that do that actually have a lower pass rate. And it wasn't just us that found that. The study that was done for the New York Bar Examiners a couple of years ago found that repetition in that form, going through the course multiple times, actually reduced the pass rate of repeat bar takers. So we don't recommend that you do that. Instead, what I would suggest to this student is study about 10 hours a week right now. If you can do a little bit more, that's fine. And when you reach the end of the course, the substantive study, then you're just going to spend more time in the review sections, which are expandable. You can go deeper and do more questions and more essays in a topic and have that option available to you as well. So again, what I'm really saying is don't go through and try and do the course multiple times. And I know some of you taking the exam this July may have been thinking, if I finish by X date, I'm just going to be able to go back and do it all again. Don't do that. Continue to work on the areas that are weakest for you, and you'll gain more points doing that than going back and covering the whole logic of the course from start to finish. So great question, and I appreciate that. Next question, I just completed a contracts essay, and I missed out on a majority of the points of law because I couldn't remember the law. How can I improve in the law area on this essay? There's a couple of things, and this is a good question. First of all, I would encourage any student that's having problems to schedule coaching calls with me or Megan, either on an hourly basis or to upgrade your courses for the 8 calls with me or the 12 calls with Megan. I think we can do more to diagnose and help you in a coaching call than any single thing we can do. So that's number one. Number two is, after you've written your answer, go back to the model answer and look at the discussions of the law that are in that answer. Then go to your mind maps, remember where we started today with how to mind map, and make sure that your mind maps for that subject include those points of law. This will help solidify in your mind what you should be doing and what the rules and the principles would be. So you're adding them to your notes. That's one of the important pieces of doing an essay. And you might say, what if it's an essay that doesn't have a model answer? Model answers are the ones we write in the FLA format, but even the answers that are just sample answers will still have law built into them. And in some cases, it may be that I've lectured on the question rather than written out an answer, but the same idea, just go through and find the law from there. Now, if you're a photo reader, what I would suggest is that you photo read the outline of the law before you write your essay. That's the instruction that you're going to have in the course. Then do the writing, then activate that by going back and reviewing the outline or the model answer and adding to your mind map. I think that the way you improve your legal understanding is through repetition. It's by doing all of these steps. Any subject you're working on, you're going to come back to multiple times. And as you do it, continue to add to your mind map, continue to photo read if you're a photo reader, and you will find that you're building on your law understanding. One final thing I'd say to almost everybody at this point is I don't expect you to know very much law, even now at 50 some days until the exam. Really, most of the deep learning that's going to happen will occur in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And our expectation is you're just getting a brush of the law at this stage. If it's your first time going through any subject, that's just the beginning stage. And it'll be in the repetition and review in which you'll really begin to learn the law. So I hope that helps for those of you that are struggling with that particular question or problem. All right, next question, a similar vein, but about MBE. Student said, I'm in the MBE review portion of the course, and I've been completing the online practice exams and doing the randomized practice questions online. What scores should I be aiming for at this time? What is passing? 56 days out, there is no such thing as passing. I wouldn't expect you to be passing. But if you're at that stage where you're doing the full-length tests, the basic guidelines are written into the course. And typically what you're looking for is about 60 questions correct for every 100. And if you're hitting that 60 or higher mark, you should be passing in almost any jurisdiction, including California. But here's the thing. If you're just doing randomized questions, which is fine if you're at that stage in the course, we really don't care how many you get right because there's no model that predicts performance or ultimate results based on your performance at this stage. Treat all of your practice, whether it's an essay or a multiple choice test, as an opportunity to learn more law and to expand your mind maps and your notes and to learn things that you were having trouble with previously. If you do, that's really what we want. So really what I'm saying is be more aware of process and less concerned about outcomes. And again, this is what we talked about at the beginning of the course today, is that right now it starts to feel like your exam is going to happen tomorrow, but it's not. And trust me, 56 days is forever in bar review terms. In dog years or bar review terms, it is literally forever. And if you don't believe that now, go back 56 days from today. And I can guarantee you don't remember anything that happened 56 days ago. It was so long ago. Remember, that was back when we had COVID. And 56 days is much longer than it feels like to you. There's something about the human brain that looks forward and says, oh, that's going to happen right away. But yet when we look backwards, we say that was so long ago, right? 2 months ago. How did that happen? It was snowing for most of you 2 months ago. All right, next question came up, said, after the review lessons, the course helped me identify my weakest MBE subjects. How would you suggest that I incorporate the review of those subjects into the rest of the course? Should I take additional time reading the materials and my notes between the lessons? Yeah, I think you should, but I definitely think you should photo read the materials. That's the best way to learn it. No doubt about it. When we got the results back in from February 2022, photo readers did better than non-photo readers. There was no question. It was across the board. And so I think you should be photo reading the materials. I think that you shouldn't just be doing your notes. You should be doing mind maps. Again, one of the correlations that we saw, people that photo read and people that did mind maps scored consistently higher than people that didn't photo read and didn't do mind maps. So if you've been resistant to those two things, I would encourage you to rethink that. There is plenty of time to learn how to photo read. It's 1 hour a day for 8 days while you're studying for the bar. Very easy to learn. If you don't know how to mind map, it's a 10-minute video and just get in and start mind mapping. It's just so much more effective. I think that's one of the ways that you can improve on your weaker subjects. The other part, of course, is doing questions for the MBE and then adding them to your notes. And I also think that Bar Maps is a really good tool at that stage. Bar Maps is a separate product in which we have all of the lectures put into timestamps based on subtopics. So you can go right to the subject part of the subject, let's say you're having trouble with hearsay exceptions and evidence, you go right to that section of the lecture and just drill down there. Plus, the mind maps are already built for you. The first 2 or 3 levels of every subject, both state and multi-state, are built into bar maps. So that is a terrific advantage. And there's fast finish audios in which we take the soundtrack for those lectures and we've compressed them down into 2 hours with time gap technology. And so you can just listen to the lecture when you're going to sleep at night. It is a very effective tool for review. So if you're at that review stage, I would encourage you to look at bar maps as being one of the tools that would really help you with your MBE subjects. Great question. Most of you aren't there yet, just to be clear. Some of you are further along. And if you're just starting the course, don't freak out. This is what people who've been studying for a few months are up to. Okay. Next question. Someone said, the month of May, I was trying to figure out what worked best for me with studying and working, and I started to have a little bit of doubt. Then the student says, I'm just now finishing the Crim Pro part of the program, and I now have a better perspective. And I wanted to just point this out because I know that at this stage, it's easy to have that frustration and to be trying to do so many different things at once and multitasking and trying to understand the structure of the course and everything you've got to do. I just want to say, if that's happening to you, jump on a group coaching call, get with Brianna or Bobko or Amanda when she starts, and they have been through this process and they can help you sort it out and straighten it out. The time management class with Brianna is a half an hour that will change your life. She will get you straightened out and show you what you need to do. And she takes no prisoners. It's a great way to get that assistance and know what you've got to do. I think the other thing is that doubt starts to creep in because people get afraid, they get overwhelmed, and they lose sight of really what it is they're trying to do. Just follow the course assignments as you see them. It will lead you on the right path. And if you follow the time frames, you'll be fine there as well. All right, the next question says, this was from a student that did not pass the bar exam in February, and they are asking if there's enough time to study to take the exam in July of 2022. The answer to that question is yes. If you have enough time to study, you're going to need about, if you're studying right now, you need about 4 or 5 hours a day of study from now until the exam. Some of you have 4 or 5 hours a day, some of you don't, and that's really the point. If you don't have the 4 or 5 hours a day, study now, but plan on taking the February 23 exam. There's no penalty from us to do that, and there's no disfavor in doing that either. But if you have the 4 or 5 hours a day and you can build on what you did leading up to February, then keep going, keep working and take the exam in July, or at least work towards the exam in July. And if you have to defer or postpone, you can do that. There may be a small fee from the examiners, but there's no fee to postpone with us. And then our last question, a student said, I've made improvements since my last bar exam, but I still need to increase my score. I know that what I need to work on the most is taking the time to understand and know the law. And that's really a good point. It's not memorizing, it's knowing the law. Then the student says, I don't feel like going through the lectures will be helpful. That hurts my feelings because the lectures are truly amazing. But the lectures are in fact helpful, even though you don't think that. They are there to activate what you've been reading or photo reading. And therefore you should go through the lectures. Now, if you don't want to go through them traditionally, get bar maps and speed them up through the fast finish, or just take the parts of the lectures where you're already weak. So I think that's the solution instead of skipping all the lectures. I think that's a mistake. The student went on to say, I think doing practice exams and figuring out how I can memorize the law would be most helpful. Whoops, now we're off the study track entirely. I think that memorizing the law is the least effective, least productive thing you could be doing right now. It doesn't work for most people, and it's really a deadly trap at this stage. Do not try to memorize. It just doesn't work. And you can't memorize enough material for the bar exam of 2022. This is not the bar exam of 1975. It's a different test, and memorization simply doesn't work very well. Figuring out how to know the law comes from doing the process, reading or photo reading, mind mapping, going through the lectures, mind mapping, then doing practice questions, MBE and essay, and mind mapping, and then repeating it again as you go through the course. Those are the things that are most helpful. This is the time when students start asking me if there's some special way they can do something, and the answer is generally not. after 35 years, in my case, of teaching, and Megan's now in her 11th or 12th year, we've seen most everything that people can do, and we've incorporated the things that work, like mind mapping, and we've tried to exclude the things that don't work, like memorization. So those are our suggestions for you there. All right. I think that's what we've got for this week. We will be back again next week. Megan will hopefully be back with us. June, I'm sure, will be back as well. Thank you all for being here today and participating. Hope that we were able to cover it even without Megan being present, but we're glad to have all of you here. Have a good study weekend. Try and avoid this 7th week meltdown that begins to happen as we get into this stretch. Keep calm, stay focused, keep doing your work. Have a great study week, and we will see you all again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.